Hi humans, it's Hannah. Welcome back to the second channel. We're here. We're doing it. How are you all? Thank you so much for your patience. I know I disappeared from this channel for a little bit. I would assume that most people on this channel watch my main channel, so you know what went down last month and the emotional turmoil that I was once again in. So I do apologize if you are randomly just on this channel and you don't know my main channel. One of my pets passed away, and it was a small pet, but it was still really traumatic. And yeah, so we're here, we're back. I'm excited to be back on this channel. I love this channel. If you don't know what we do here, instead of videos on creepy and disturbing things, I read your personal scary stories. So people in my audience from either channel write in their stories to my email. It has to be true to the best of your knowledge, but it can be either paranormal, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be dark, just something with a dark element to it, near-death experience, creepy encounters, stuff like that. But yes, they do all have to be true, at least to the best of your knowledge. If you have your own story you'd like to send in, instructions for how to do that are always in the description box. And Taylor always puts a nice little thingy on screen for us because I do have an editor for this channel. And yeah, stories are always welcome. Listen, there's a lot of stories in that folder. I think I have too many. I don't even want to say it. I have too many, but I just want to let people know yet again that just because I haven't read your story yet doesn't mean it's impossible. Doesn't mean I'll never read your story. I do kind of a lotto system when I'm going through stories. I've said this before, but I basically scroll through that inbox at random, either from very old stories or very new stories or somewhere in the middle. And I try to get a few stories from all different time frames so that basically everybody has about the same chance of being chosen, if that makes sense. So just to let you know, if you have sent a story in and you're like, why didn't you read it? It's not that I won't, it's just kind of random when I get to them. So, okay, no more intros. Let's get into the first story today. Okay, the first story says, "Hi Hannah, I am a Z or Ace, is that how you say it? From Wales, UK. You can use my name if you like. I never miss a video, and honestly, I consider you at this point a friend in a healthy, non-creepy way, LOL. And I've been watching for so long that we have so much in common, and I feel like in real life we'd be best friends. You're seriously the sweetest thing. And I'm so glad that your channel is growing so fast. You deserve it. You're so gentle, non-judgmental, and understanding. Thank you so much. That's so nice of you. I only urge you to remember that we're parasocial friends, but you don't know me in real life and you don't know any of the creators you watch in real life. So just keep that in mind for your own mental health and boundaries, because I know I can get very parasocial with my faves too. However, parasocial friends, I think, is a healthy way to put it, and I appreciate you so much. That's so sweet of you to say. Okay. My story is not supernatural, which sometimes I feel is even scarier. The same way a movie about a plausible murderer is scarier than a ghost haunting. Agreed. Humans are the scariest creatures of all. So before I was born, my mother had divorced her ex-husband and lived alone with my two older brothers who were around 5 and 7 at the time. Earlier that day, a homeless, disheveled, probably under the influence kind of man had knocked the door in broad daylight. My mother, thinking nothing of it since it was daytime, opens the door to him. She was a little shocked, as it isn't really an area where people we don't know will knock on our doors, especially, no disrespect or judgment, people who appeared the way he did. As she said hello, his eyes darted around inside, scoping the hallway floor to ceiling and left and right, as if to get all the information he could. "Hi, do you by any chance have a reading material for me? Magazines? Books?" Super weird. That is super weird. My mother is the kindest, gentlest soul in the world, but with the boys in the house, she wouldn't entertain this much further. She refused apologetically, and the man left. She was a little shaken, but watched him leave and went about the day thinking that it was a one-off. As the night came and the boys had been put to bed upstairs ages ago, my mother was tidying up and getting ready for bed herself. It must have been around 12. It was by no means early. She suddenly heard a ticking noise coming from towards the front door. The man had returned, and his silhouette in the darkness was obvious. He was slowly picking away at the doorway lock and lining around the door to try to get in. Oh my gosh. Sorry to leave y'all on a little bit of a cliffhanger there, but before we finish this story, I want to tell you guys all about something that is also very terrifying. And that is the horror and shock that anyone will feel when they Google their own name. I do it on a frequent basis with my own real last name, and let me tell you, I feel so angry when I do this, but also like weirdly violated. These websites have my real last name, but like my entire family, like my parents' names, my sister's name, their address, phone numbers. It's so creepy. It feels like it should be illegal, but it's not. They do have to take the information down if you go in and specially request that they do so. But much like a gym membership, they make it very complicated and very difficult. They don't actually want to take it down. And then it's often you're so exhausted from all the other things that you have going on in your life that you just don't bother, and then your info's still up. It is infuriating and diabolical. They make billions with a B selling your info to scammers, but also to criminals. If criminals pay up, someone like me with a public platform, and so many of us are on all social media these days, that is so terrifying. This is why I always recommend that everybody in my audience and also my family and friends, just people in my personal life, all sign up for Aura. Aura is kindly sponsoring today's video, even though I would be using them whether they did or not. Aura is everything you need for your online security all in one place. They automatically remove your info from these sites and they keep it off for you. You get alerts on the app if any of your info is found on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for your credit and your banking, 24/7 monitoring, US-based support literally around the clock, and $5 million in identity theft protection in case something does happen to go terribly wrong. But they also just have everything else that you could possibly need. They have a built-in antivirus, a built-in VPN, they have a password manager, they have parental controls, so much more. Go to my link, aura.com/TheHorrible for your 14-day free trial. The link will be at the description below this video. It's on the screen. Use the QR code, however you want to get there, which will give Aura enough time to check if any of your data has been exposed. Thank you again to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Now let's find out what happens at the end of the story. Oh my gosh. Okay. In the UK, we are allowed GUNS's, weapons, but it is extremely difficult to attain them. Background checks, licenses, medical history, living situation, etc. I don't fully know the protocol as I've never needed to check, but I know that we can have them if we have a license, which is often rechecked and renewed. As it should be, right? I won't get started. My mother had no need or reason to own one, leaving her completely defenseless unless he gained access and she got close enough to be in physical contact to use a kitchen knife or something similar. This is when a single, terrified 26-year-old woman alone in danger with 2 children in the house became the most awesome person I can even imagine. Even if she called the police then, there'd be no way that they'd have gotten there in time. She picked up my brother's most realistic looking toy GUN, slammed against the door, and placed the outline against it so that he could see it, and screamed at him that the police were on their way and that she had a weapon and wasn't afraid to use it in self-defense. Needless to say, his dumb ass was up and gone in 0.2 seconds. Pretty sure the police were then informed. That is such a good idea. Now, if you don't know, I didn't know this before researching either, but some toy GUNs, they don't all look like water guns where they're all colorful and everything. A lot of the toy ones look so realistic. It's actually quite scary. And they do have markings on them that are supposed to, I think it's an orange tag, if I remember correctly, on a lot of them to make sure that people know that it's either fake or that the police can identify that it's a toy weapon. But in this situation, that's so smart to put it up against the window to make it look like it's a real one. That's very smart. Do not underestimate the guts of a single mama. She is my hero. I wouldn't have had half the quick thinking or bravery to do what she did, and to this day, she brushes it off as no big deal. The man never returned or bothered anyone in the area, but she was definitely a lot more vigilant and learned a lot about how people will often canvass a neighborhood to possibly break in or burgle the vulnerable or scope out high value items. That is totally a thing. It's like their casing. I've had this happen at my old childhood home I think at least once, where people come to the door pretending like they're selling something is also a tactic. And really, they're just trying to engage with you for a moment so they can peek inside. And they're making a lot of observations, little do you know. So they're checking out what kind of lock you have. They're seeing if you have a security system. They're seeing if you have a dog. They're seeing if you have high value items within reach and where those items are. Could they get in and out quick, etc. It is a thing. So yeah, I'm glad that cameras are so common now. Almost everybody has a camera on their door now. I think that probably reduces the criminality rate quite a bit because they don't want to be on camera. Anyway, thank you so much for reading this. I love to tell her how brave she was, as she has very low self-esteem, and to share this with you is almost like celebrating her and her bravery. Even if it doesn't make the video, I know that you'll appreciate her as much as we do. She has also been a nurse for over 30 years. Incredible woman. Wow. Thank you for being a nurse. I feel like we thank our military all the time. I feel like anytime we come across a nurse or a medical assistant or even a tech or anybody who works at the hospital that supports the doctors, we should say thank you for your service. It's our job. Thank you so much, Hannah. All my love. And quitches, a Welsh word for cuddle, pronounced like chucks. Nope, can't say that. Sorry. To you and all the fur babies, take care and keep being the beautiful soul and gorgeous lady you are. A-Z or A's. Thank you. Thank you so much for your story. That was harrowing. I think somebody tried to break into your house. Like, it almost, like, to a lot of people, it doesn't sound that scary. I mean, it would be, but like, if you've never had that happen, you don't understand quite the level of fear you would feel. And being a single mother with 2 little children in the house, that terrifying. Okay, so the second story for today starts, hello. I'll start by saying that English is not my first language, so if there's anything that's incorrect or that sounds weird, I'm sorry. You can keep me anonymous or not. It doesn't affect the way the story is read. I'm sure your English is great. Secondly, this story is possibly paranormal, but isn't particularly scary overall, to me personally at least. I hope that it still belongs here, though. Thirdly, this isn't really my story, but my mom's. I'm personally very skeptical, but I enjoy scary content and I enjoy questioning myself. And the fact that this came from my mom, who is even less superstitious than I am, did make me question myself a lot. This happened to my mom when she was finishing her 3rd year of high school. Because all of her 27 classmates, this number will be important later, including her, managed to pass 3rd grade, they threw a party. Oh, I think 3rd year of high school, meaning the 3rd grade of high school. Sorry, in America, that is not that we say like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior for the 4 years of high school. And to say you're in 3rd grade in America means that you're literally in elementary school. So I got really confused for just a second, but I got you. I'm with you on that. At the party, 6 of the classmates, once again, including my mom, decided to talk to ghosts and ask them if everyone will graduate high school in a year. They made a makeshift ouija with the letters marked on a large piece of cardboard and a plastic cup for a planchette. It took them all about a half an hour, but they finally got some supposed activity and asked the board about how many classmates will graduate next year. The board replied 19 students. So that's so weird. I think you maybe talk about this later, but like Ouija boards aren't usually known for telling the future. At first, they were obviously horrified. 19 out of 27 is very little. Then they decided to forget about this because it was unbelievable and probably a prank from one of the players anyway. Nobody would confess to it though. Then the 4th year passed and my mom graduated and got admitted to a university to study medicine. But the thing is, she was one of the 19 students in her class that actually graduated. During her final year, 6 students dropped out. 4 of them decided that they wanted to change their specialization. We have classes with specializations in high school where I live, and were moved to different classes in the same year. 2 moved to a different city, and it's important to note that those things happened rather suddenly. So suddenly, somehow, instead of 27, 21 students wrote the finals. 2 classmates actually failed their finals. Therefore, 19 people graduated. I've personally never believed in anything paranormal, and certainly not in the Ouija board, as I always attributed it to automatism since I heard about that explanation on some podcast. But I still attempted to play with it with my friends on a Halloween party when I got a chance. I was a teenager. Okay, I'm still barely not a teenager. My mom only told me this story when I told her that I played with it and was unconvinced by the scientific theory I shared with her. This really freaked her out, it seems. The only rational explanation I have for this as of now is that the players just had a strong subconscious intuition that this would happen, which came out in a Ouija board session. If that's the case, it's quite extraordinary. I'm someone who has a strong intuition and trusts it almost always, but I don't think I could ever try to accurately predict something like this, even subconsciously. 5 people predicting it correctly? I don't know. Apparently, maybe our minds are full of surprises. If this isn't a paranormal story, it might just be a crazy intuition story. Not spooky in that case, but I hope it's still kind of cool to hear about. If you ever read this, I'd love to hear any other possible explanations. Love your channel. Thank you so much for that story. That was interesting because it was a little bit different. And by the way, I want to say you're like I predicted much like the Ouija board that your English was perfect. You even used a word that I had never heard the word automatism before and had to look it up in the middle of filming. So your English is better than mine. Just saying. I do have some thoughts on this. I do think it's interesting. Now, to preface this, I love Ouija boards. I think they're so aesthetically pleasing, I think is the biggest thing. I have a planchette on the wall. I'll try to put a picture up in the video because you can't see it in the frame, but I have a planchette on the wall. I have this pillow is like Ouija board pillow. I have a Ouija board from the 90s that I bought at an expo downstairs, like a classic actual Ouija board. I love Ouija boards. I have a keychain. I have those planchette earrings, and it's mostly just aesthetically. I just love Ouija boards and what they look like and what they represent. So that just makes me a little bit biased. But I do have to say the only confusing part is that Ouija boards are not supposed to be able to tell the future. They mostly are supposed to just get in connection with spirits and with those on the other side or on a different plane and stuff. Winnie shaking. Or a lot of the time people claim that when they don't play with Ouija boards correctly and follow all the rules, they've also accidentally invited something in or it has opened a door to let something in. I will admit, as skeptical as I am, I have never and probably will never play with my Ouija board in my house. I've never played with it, period. But I will probably not ever do it in my house because I just on the minuscule, tiny chance that all of this is real, I don't want to make a mistake that I'm going to regret. I am open to playing with it elsewhere. Like if I'm at an Airbnb with my friends, I actually meant to do that at the beginning of the year, but I wasn't able to go on that trip. We were planning to play with the Ouija board though. I just know that they're not usually for predicting the future. They're usually for connecting with spirits on the other side or, sometimes other things go awry. So that's the only part about this where I kind of want to say that maybe it was just a very unlikely, very crazy coincidence. The scientific explanation for Ouija boards is basically just it's psychological. When you're in that state, imagine you're in a group of people, it's dark, you have candles lit, maybe you're in a haunted place or in a cemetery. So you've set yourself up to already you're primed to see or hear things, and it might open confirmation bias. So if the wind blows on a tree next to you, if you hear a sound, if you hear a strange noise you've ever heard before, you're more likely to attribute it to the Ouija board use, etc. And then the way that the planchette moves, according to science or the scientific studies, is that the people are moving it. That if you're all in a group, you all have your hands on it. Like that's why you're supposed to have multiple hands on it and not play with it by yourself, because you're less likely to be influenced by the group. And if everybody's lightly touching the planchette and then it just slightly, if people kind of get something in their head, or maybe they're primed on what ghost was passed away or what the house is supposedly haunted with, they are more likely to conveniently get an answer that way. So basically, the short answer is that it's a subconscious movement of the planchette with your fingers that you're not lying, you literally don't realize you're doing it, right? So therefore, if you ask the question, how many students are graduating, obviously, if somebody in the group was messing with you, they would go to the numbers, right? Or if it wasn't intuition, somebody just picked a number and again, subconsciously, they didn't mean to. And then they led everybody to a reasonable number out of 27, but then it was a huge coincidence, right? It was a huge coincidence, but it just so happened that 19 students graduated. So I don't know. Yeah, of course, I don't know. I've never, the biggest thing for me, though, this story is so interesting to me, but I've never heard of a Ouija board predicting the future or being a means to predict the future. So, okay, we're going to move on with story number 3 here. This one starts, "Hello, Hannah. I'm a big fan of your work. My name is Emmett. I'm 20 years old." Thank you so much, Emmett. "This is a story about mine and others' close encounters with a ghost known to many folks in my local community theater circle. This story has some interesting real historical elements." Ooh, love those. I swear theater kids and theater people are like so susceptible to ghosts. Like, theaters are always haunted, and I swear that theater kids are like have a special capability. I'd like to preface this story with the fact that I'm a pretty big skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, but as some are familiar, most theater folk tend to be on the superstitious side. See what I'm saying? Maybe that's why, because they're more open to it because they're superstitious. I work at a very hip and very cutesy little community theater in the small town in Texas. This theater is my second home. It was a refuge for me when I was a closeted trans kid struggling to find somewhere where I could feel safe and be completely myself. I started taking theater classes in middle school with the youth theater director in the program. Let's call her Miss Teacher for privacy. Miss Teacher's classes had all kinds of improv-based games and activities. One game called Winkum, or Killer, as we used to call it before Miss Teacher realized parents might not enjoy hearing about their small children playing killer at theater class, was a favorite amongst the kids in her class. The way the game works is important to know in order to understand how our class had just been introduced to the secret resident of the theater. That day, Winkum started off as normal. All the kids sit in a circle, heads down, eyes closed. Miss Teacher walks around the circle and taps one of us on the head. She then tells us all to open our eyes. "Killer, strike," is what she used to say to start the game. When you are it in this game, your goal is to kill other people around the circle by making eye contact with somebody, winking at them, but not getting caught doing it. Okay. Am I crazy? I don't remember all the rules, but in the 90s, when I was in elementary school, we did play something called 7 Up that feels very similar to this. I do remember us all putting our heads down and then getting tapped on the shoulder by the teacher with our eyes closed. So it's probably not the exact same game, but there's got to be other variations of this game. This sounds so much like 7 Up. That's what we used to call it. If someone sees the killer wink at someone else, they simply turn around and raise their hand and they're out of the game safe. The game goes on until the killer is the only one left. The rest are either safe or dead. Only this day we didn't finish the game. Something far more interesting happened. One of the girls got up from the circle as the game had already started and walked over to Miss Teacher to whisper something to her. She asked her, "Did you poke me?" She thought that she was it, but seeing that another kid across the circle was also winking, she was clearly confused. Miss Teacher assured her that no, she didn't tap her. She had picked the other kid across the circle, but there was something else. The girl explained to Miss Teacher that when everyone had their eyes closed, someone poked her back with a finger firmly, putting a bit of pressure right on the middle of her back for a moment. This was not at all how Miss Teacher usually picked who was it, always gently tapping a kid's head with her finger. What then made it certain that it couldn't have been Miss Teacher who poked her back in a specific way, the girl said that the moment she was poked, she could clearly hear Miss Teacher walking on the opposite side of the circle. Oh my gosh, that's so creepy. As our teacher and the student discussed this situation, the game quickly halted. Miss Teacher asked the other kids who sat on either side of this girl if they poked her as a joke or on accident somehow. That was my first thought. Is this like a boy picking on her or somebody just trying to mess with her? Miss Teacher has always been an honest and caring teacher, and so were the students that she'd known for quite a few years now. They wouldn't lie about something as silly as this. Very confused, they answered no, they hadn't touched her in the slightest. Everyone was confused for a second. No one really knew what was going on. That was until, after thinking a moment, Miss Teacher smiled and told us all something I would never forget. "I guess Lillian wanted to play too." Oh my God. Oh my gosh, I would have shit a brick. Huh? None of us knew what she was talking about. Miss Teacher and the girl who was poked then repeated what had just happened, and no one else could explain it either. Miss Teacher explained to us that Lillian the librarian was the ghost believed by many in the community to haunt this theater. She quickly assured us that she was a nice ghost most of the time. That's reassuring. And that she is typically blamed by those who work and act here for any kind of unexplainable occurrence. This old building that had been a theater since 1979 used to be a historic library as far back as 1914. And so it was believed that Lillian was the librarian here when she was alive. Did your teacher scare the living crap out of that poor girl? Oh my gosh, It's safe to say that all of us kids were shocked and amazed to learn about Lillian. We all knew that it was just a fun superstition, but I would imagine the girl who was poked on the back by her in quite a haunting way had a good reason to never come back to the theater after that semester. Okay, so that answers my question. After that year, I have genuinely never seen her ever again. I hope she's doing all right now. She was traumatized by Lillian the ghost. I mean, even if it's a nice ghost, if you feel something like that, still terrifying. In the almost 8 years since I first learned about Lillian, I've only heard more stories about her and experienced weird things myself. I now work at the theater as an assistant director with Miss Teacher. I have also done lots of acting, tech, set design, you name it. That's so cool. Full circle. During one of Miss Teacher's productions of Mary Poppins, all of our cast was already familiar with Lillian. We jokingly talked to her all the time through a specific flickering light in the dressing room. Before one of the performances, I was there to witness one of the lead guys jokingly say, "I hate you, Lillian," blaming her for something I can't remember. To his horror and everyone else's entertainment, things started going wrong for him one by one. First, before the show, his phone went missing, finding it in a trash can somehow. Second, he simply handed our Mary Poppins her umbrella as per usual, and the bird head carved into the handle abruptly falls off right before the show was supposed to start. And third, I believe he said it was the worst night of the whole run, messing up a bunch of lines and lyrics. He warned everyone never to speak ill of our lovely Lillian or she will set you straight. To be fair, I fully believe you, but to be fair, the messing up a bunch of the lines and the lyrics might have been psychological because he was scared of Lillian because he thought that he pissed off a ghost and was already having issues. So maybe he was messing up his lines and stuff that might not have been attributed to Lillian. That might have just been because he was really off his game. Of course, most stories of Lillian among students, actors, even veteran directors here can be chalked up to superstition, but there are quite a few people who have their own creepy stories of unexplainable things happen in the old building. A lot that I've heard involve being at the theater when no one else is around. As someone who is often in the building by myself painting sets, it did take a long time to get over the unsettling feeling being by yourself in a place like that. It's a hard feeling to describe. It might have to do with the lack of windows on the main stage area. Obviously, most theaters need to be dark to put on shows properly, so the old library windows have been covered completely by walls from the inside. The glass still visible on the outside of the building. There have been several instances where I am at the theater by myself working for hours and I'll suddenly hear something or see something out of the corner of my eye that momentarily activates that caveman fear response part of my brain. I'm literally the most skeptical person alive, but sometimes you really get the feeling that these buildings with a lot of history hold on to the lives of those that lived that history. I fully agree. Theaters and like hospitals, two places that I'm convinced if ghosts are real, they're all haunted. Crazier even, we recently learned that Lillian was in fact a real person who was a real librarian that really worked in what used to be this library. Lillian Gunter was a real woman who was the first head librarian when the building was built in 1914. Very involved in her local government, Lillian was an incredible activist for her time, fighting for library access for African Americans and women's rights to vote. She even got laws passed in the name of county libraries. Seriously, look her up. Lillian died in 1926 at 56 years old. No one at the theater really knows who started the legend of Lillian's ghost. Her story had become mostly forgotten over time, and even the veteran theater goers only knew her through ghost stories. She has always been regarded by everyone as a nice, playful ghost, but you better not cross her because she has and always means business. Thank you so much for reading my long, complicated story about our theater's resident dramaturg. Is that a typo? Theater's resident drama ghost. Drama, I don't know what you're saying there. I hope you found it interesting or a little spooky. Attached are some images of the real Lillian Gunter. She was an icon, not gonna lie. Ooh, I am so excited. Okay. You also sent me a second email. I'm just seeing that. To add to this, here's a little dedication by students and staff during one of our plays, which was a ghost story, to Lillian for looking after our theater. Our students here are very silly. Oh, no, that wasn't a typo. Dramaturg? What is a dramaturg? I am learning all kinds of new words today. A dramaturg is a literary specialist in the theater world who works with playwrights, directors, and other production team members to ensure the play's production is artistically sound and historically accurate. Oh my God, how did I thought that was a typo? That's so embarrassing. I do apologize. I am just not a word nerd today. So I'm looking at dramaturg Lily Gunter, and then there's like all the stars from everybody. Oh, that's so cool. And then here's some images. Let's look at this one. The first one, wow. What a beautiful blouse. She's got like bows almost on her blouse. That's so pretty. Oh, Lillian, you go, Lillian. She looks like a ghost in the pictures just because the pictures are so old. I am obsessed with this. Okay, I'm going to look her up too. Sure enough. Lillian Gunter, Wikipedia librarian. Lillian Gunter, September 15th, 1870 to October 10th, 1926, was a scholar, librarian, and historian during the late 19th to early 20th century in Texas. Okay. Hopefully you're okay with the fact that like saying her name is going to be, it makes it easy to find what theater and stuff it is. Wow. That's so cool. I am obsessed with that. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Emmett. I love that. All right, moving on for story 4 for today. This one starts, Dear Hannah. Oh, I haven't gotten a Dear Hannah in a while. I really hope you read this story because I have a purpose in writing it. I've been listening to scary stories on your channel and others regularly for over 5 years now. I naively thought that consuming this content would help me react if I found myself in a scary situation. It didn't. I want everyone listening to know that you can never be truly prepared. This happened in November. It was unreasonably warm for the first part of the month, so I decided to try out a new hobby, running. I live on a college campus, so I thought that it would be a great place to run. However, since I had just started my running journey, I didn't want my peers to see me beet red and struggling to breathe while simultaneously jogging at a walking pace. This insecurity caused me to make a terrible mistake. Been there though, don't blame you. I chose to run along the outskirts of campus so that I would see less people. So instead of picturing a normal college campus bustling with life, think of the empty outskirts with parking lots, sports fields, and empty lots. The area I was running in was behind the main building of campus where the computer and staff parking lots are. I started to notice a blue truck circling the area I was running in. Like I said, this is a parking lot, so seeing a truck driving around is very normal. Until about the 5th time, I noticed the truck loop around the area I was in. Everything escalated incredibly fast after this. The 5th or 6th time I saw the truck, it slowed to a stop in front of me. The man inside rolled down the window trying to say something to me, but I completely ignored him. I was really trying to focus on the pacing of my run and was not interested in a conversation with anybody. I know by how he was circling me that he was most likely just trying to hit on me, and I already know that I'm gorgeous and have a boyfriend, so there was literally no point in interacting with this man. Also, I thought that ignoring him was a message in itself, but he did not receive this message. What's wild is that even if you didn't have a boyfriend and you were very single and like actively looking, like if you were like, you know what, if somebody hit on me, I would engage with them, blah, 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 blah. Circling in your truck and then rolling your window down is not it, my dude. I don't care if you're Prince fucking Charming. That is a creepy thing to do. So like, I don't know, just leave women alone. If they're minding their own business, especially like, what is it with women exercising that makes people think that they're like open to interaction? Like, can you not see how fucking sweaty I am? And I have I cannot stand it when people talk to me when I have earbuds in, like, motherfucker. Now we're playing cat and mouse. I see the truck. I try to avoid it. All the while, this man is doing some fast and furious bullshit through the parking lots to try and intercept my path. The next time we meet, he pulls his truck onto a crosswalk I'm about to cross to intercept me. He pulls up so fast that he's literally in the middle of the crosswalk. Before he can try to speak to me again, I dash behind the truck and turn so I'm on the edge of campus and running along a main street. If I didn't have anything to say to him a minute ago, what makes him think that I'll talk to him now? The audacity of men is crazy to witness sometimes. The confidence, too. Can you imagine having the hubris to do this? No, because only cocky white men have this. Anyway, it's like 1 p.m, so the traffic along the busy street made me feel safer. What happens next, I still see sometimes when I close my eyes. I'm pretty sure he just parked at that crosswalk because a few moments later, I turn my head and I see him running up behind me on foot. At this point, I'm not entertaining this sick freak for a second. He deserves absolutely none of my time, so I just keep running faster and faster. He only chased me for a few seconds, probably because he's parked in the middle of the crosswalk. This is where the setting really becomes important, so I'll do my best to describe it. Like I said, I'm on the outer edge of campus, so there's not a lot out there besides parking lots. This made it easy to see a bright blue truck parked a block away from me. Seeing the truck sat waiting for me along the route, I planned to go immediately after. Seeing this man chase after me on foot was the most horrifying sight I have ever seen. Now I'm stuck. I turned around to try to avoid him, but since he's a block over, he's like matching where I go. Like if I turned around because I saw him getting close, he would turn around too and start coming towards me again, almost like he was mirroring my movements the next block over. He would match my movement and then circle the block. I think he circled the block I was on and passed me about 5 times. Since I couldn't really go anywhere, I was still on that main road, which is why he didn't stop in front of me anymore. He just drove past. It was still the middle of the day, and I'm pretty sure he just wanted to hit on me. So I made another mistake and called my best friend instead of the police. When I called her, I could still see him parked a block away, so I kept her on the line and booked it to the closest building on campus. While I was on the phone, he passed by me one more time, turned back into campus, and disappeared from my view. When I was sure he was out of sight, I went to the women's center on campus and a huge group of girls walked me back to my dorm a few hours later. Oh, I love women helping women. I really hope that any men listening to this can empathize with how it feels to be preyed upon while simply trying to better yourself. I understand wanting to put yourself out there and talk to girls in person, but no one wants to talk to you while they're running. That is what I'm saying. Women at the gym, women exercising, unless they explicitly look at you and say, come hither, leave them the fuck alone. We are sweating. We don't want to talk to you. And if a girl is clearly trying to ignore you, chasing her on foot should never be an option in your head. I feel the need to say it one more time. Stop hitting on girls while they're working out. You are not worthy of a woman's time that she has set aside to better herself. Slay. Couldn't have said it better myself. Again, it's like, imagine being a man and just growing up in a society that tells you that no is not a complete sentence, that no does not actually mean no. I don't know how running physically away from somebody could be a more clear shutdown, a clear rejection, a clear get away from me. I don't know. And like, if he was suave and actually wanted to do this, like, why didn't he just like pretend like he was running around too and then be like, oh, sorry, you know, not that that would have been less creepy, but just like circling in a giant truck is giving kidnapping vibes. That's what I'm saying. Like, circling around you really close in a big truck is giving, I'm waiting for my moment to grab you. I'm just so sorry this happened to you. I will never judge any woman if they don't call the police, because I know how often women just get victim blamed and the police don't do anything in these kinds of situations. But if you felt comfortable and you felt empowered in that moment, and maybe your police station is a relatively good police station, I would encourage people to report this if they feel comfortable. get the license plate if you can. I can imagine you're so fight or flight and scared in that moment that it's really hard to get the license plate. But like over time, training yourself, like remember to look at the license plate, remember to look at the license plate, so that if you're in any situation, I do that when I see like amber alerts or silver alerts on the freeway. I try to memorize those license plates that are, listed, look for this car. I try really hard to like make a little mnemonic device or something to remember those, because again, like you said, it's so much harder to gauge when you're actually in that situation. But I promise, thinking these scenarios through, not obsessively, not living your life scared and paranoid, but when you do take time to think these scenarios through and think, what would I do? Can I put myself in that scenario safely to see what I would do? It does help over time. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not blaming you whatsoever. That's an easy thing for me to say, having not been in this situation myself, right? So I'm not saying like, you should have got the blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying like, it's unfortunate. It's not our fault. There's too much victim blaming, but unfortunately, we live in a misogynistic, men are privileged world. And if it's at all possible for us to train ourselves to get license plates or be observant, it does benefit if you do want to report it to the police later. And I am fully aware the police probably wouldn't have done anything, like, let's be honest. But if multiple women are coming to the police and reporting a blue truck circling them or following them, if multiple reports are coming in, the police are more likely to do something about it or more likely to look into it, right? So that's why I'm saying that it could be beneficial to report, even if they don't actually do anything for you. But again, I know still literally no judgment if you don't, because I can understand steering clear of the police as well. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about our last story for today. This story starts, "Hi, Hannah. I hope your day is going well. My name's Zoe. No need for anonymity if this gets into a video. And I'm she, her, living in Puerto Rico. These last few days, I've been listening to your Halloweeny videos, and out of nowhere, I remembered something spooky that happened to me when I was little. I thought it would be a perfect story to share with you. I'm not the best storyteller, so bear with me, but here it goes. This happened when I was around 5 or 6 years old. We were all in the family room, my parents, my little brother, and I. Our family room had the front door that opened onto a porch leading to a short cement path and then stairs going up a small gate by the road. My parents had visitors, and while they talked, I, being the restless kid I was, walked and jumped all around the couch. One of our couches was backed into a corner, and the other was positioned so that if you looked over your shoulder, you'd see the front door and the stairs outside. At one point, as I hopped around, I looked towards the front stairs and froze. There, moving slowly down the stairs, was a figure, a man. But this wasn't just any shadow. This was a glowing neon green silhouette, brighter than the night around it. He seemed to be walking down, yet somehow he wasn't moving forward. He was just stuck, hovering, like he was pacing in place. For a moment, I just stared, feeling this cold grip of fear in my chest. I couldn't speak. All I could do was turn away and sit back down next to my mom. I didn't say anything, but she must have noticed because I suddenly sat so still. After a few minutes, the visitors got up to leave, heading out through the front porch. I took a breath and glanced towards the stairs again. The figure was gone. I don't know if it was a figment of my imagination, a trick of my mind, or something else entirely, but even now, sitting in that same spot and looking out at the dark front stairs after all these years, I can still feel the fear. So that's my little story. Maybe it's not the scariest, but it stuck with me all this time, and I wanted to share it with you. Thank you for listening and keeping up the amazing work. I especially love your iceberg videos. Thank you so much. Take care and have a spooky Halloween. Love, Zoe." That was, and she dated her story 10/28/2024. That's bizarre. Okay, I know what everybody's thinking if they don't listen to a lot of these types of stories, that just does not sound real. But honestly, I have heard crazier things. Again, like every video, I plug Monsters Among Us because that's just like, I love Derek Hayes. He's a little bit less skeptical than me in a lot of cases, I would say. Like sometimes it is funny that he believes videos online and stuff, or he like questions if videos are real or not when they're very clearly fake. But other than that, I do love his insight into stories like this. And I just bring that up because there's literally this famous story on this podcast about a woman driving along a road and she stops and sees a little green butt with legs and no torso. I'm not kidding. This is a story. I'm sure you can find it online. A little green butt glowing. And this thing apparently just like a couple of feet tall and hops across the road in front of her car. That's when I'm like, the crazy things people have claimed to see. Do we know why they see these things? Like you said, is it a figment of their imagination? I'm starting to wonder if maybe hallucinations, very realistic hallucinations in people, adults and children, are more common than we think they are. And people don't ever want to come forward with it because they think they sound crazy. So we never really hear about it. But I do kind of wonder if they're just really crazy hallucinations and those are more common than we think. And we don't have a mental illness with the hallucinations. We just randomly will have hallucinations. You know what I mean? Because to me, that means that it's not that nobody's lying about seeing these things. Hallucinations are just as real, you know, as an object and as the microphone in front of me. So they're not lying, but maybe it's not paranormal. Maybe it is some weird brain chemistry thing. So all I'm saying is that I actually fully believe you on this. Now, I will agree with you that I'm not positive if this is paranormal. Maybe you were going through a really stressful time and you were a kid. That can sometimes mess up our brain chemistry, or you weren't getting adequate sleep. And I believe that you actually saw this, but like, do we know the explanation behind it? Like, let's say ghosts are real. This is a possible thing. I have heard similar things like this. I mean, again, somebody else called into Monsters Among Us saying that they woke up in the middle of the night to see a monkey in their room, and not a monkey, but like a ghost monkey. Just all kinds of like very bizarre stories that I've heard that are way crazier than this. And I just don't think that most people, knowing that they're going to sound crazy, who are just calling into a show or writing in their story, they're not trying to get TikTok clout or something. I don't know why they would lie about that. So thank you so much, because I do really like these outlier kind of weird, bizarre, how did I just see this stories. So yeah, thank you so much. Okay, that's gonna be it for today's scary story videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to our sponsor Aura today for supporting my little second channel. I appreciate it so much, so that I can actually fund these videos and make a little bit of profit off of this channel. I don't make a lot off this channel. You know, it's a couple $100s a month, but it's enough to pay my editor and to pay me for my time, basically. So, and then speaking of, I have my Camping Cryptids tie-dye on today. There's a link down below, or the direct link is on the first channel. And also, people, say thank you to Taylor. If you made it to the end, leave Taylor a comment in the comment section and just say thank you, Taylor, because without her, this channel would not exist. I would not be able to get these videos out if I did not have help, because I am the primary editor for my main channel. She helps me with these videos, my Patreon videos, and some of the TikTok videos. And I just adore her. She's so nice. She's so sweet, so helpful. And yeah, so everybody give a big thanks to Taylor in the comments, so that she has some nice positive feedback to read, and just how much we appreciate her and love her and helping us make these happen. Okay, I will see you guys all in the next one. Okay, bye.